Now you would miss the three tones, wouldn't you, if you're used to them, because familiarity matters. And it really helps ground me and give me some resonance to feed off of. Resonance to feed off of. I started out with 3 titles, and then I added one at number 0, and then something came in even before that. Oh, excuse me. I haven't introduced myself. Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is the Michael Miller trademark training video live on YouTube. Out to you because you're watching. Thank you. And it's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates. Again, thank you. Cornu Core. Anybody interested in surviving as a Pilates instructor? Or anyone interested in cornu tension and how that influences the body's movement through space? So the last broadcast I asked someone who was watching, who's a real mover and who shares themselves to the benefit of us all in getting to see movement, right? And I remember saying, or asking, to just mock me and show unlocked knees and endpoints of tension at metatarsals. Show the straight wrists that are straight, just known as my wrist, because so in the attempt as a teacher to influence you towards my view, or at least help illuminate it and make it sensational so that you can decide, you know, even if you mock me is what I was leading to, or even if you make fun of not locking your knees and having an endpoint of tension at the metatarsals, as Yoda, I'm saying go there to find that feeling, and then to find that feeling and compare it to what you're doing, and then understand and accept why it is you choose to do it the way you do it. All right, so that was before 0. 0 is, number one thing is to write it down. That's, to me, this is such an important part of how I cope with the pressures of life, is that I carry a notebook, and if you've heard me before, I start at the top and I go all the way to the bottom, and then I start at the top here and go all the way to the bottom, because sequentially it's easier to follow in review. And I only go in the order of the way it happens because, just like a log on the web now, you have a sequentiality of what you wrote down. So really, and why did I do this? And I'm sharing this with you because it's my number one way for coping with getting things done. And today I felt anxiety about something, which led me to write it down. And I was amazed at how much writing it down relieved the anxiety, because I know I had captured something that made me anxious, and when you write it down, it makes it more real, captures it in a sequentiality of time, and lets you organize it later. Right? So that was my number 0, is write it down. All right, now here's number 1. It's a sentence. You don't need to know the theory. but it helps a lot. Now, what am I talking about? And am I necessarily talking about anything? I could pick a subject. Pick any subject you want. Music or dance or welding or teaching. If it's a subject, I think maybe any subject really, worthy or not, can and usually does have theory behind it. And as we discussed yesterday, in a theory, you're just trying to explain something based on general principles. With an idea or ideas that go beyond the specific instance of the example. Something like that. Look it up. Google the word. You don't have to know the theory, but it helps a lot. And so yesterday I talked some about Pilates theory, that MMP is a view of Pilates. And it attempts to not just have a view of it, but it attempts to explain let me start over. I'm getting excited. The MMP view of Pilates, so Michael Miller Pilates, looks at Pilates and tries to explain the original work. Joe's pictures, Joe's words, and Joe's film. And for whatever it lacks from not considering other things, that's what it's based on. And it's that original work, it's from that original work, including the principle that it seems everyone just assumes is the only level of description of Pilates, of concentration, control, center, precise flowing motion that rides on the breath. I like to say rides within the breath, because the breath is movement, and when the rest of you is moving too, you're moving within, and subtly the distinction, you're moving within the breathing. And you might say, well, why is that? Well, I might immediately jump to because you're more uniformly engaged and you're smoother in your movement. And so, to me, in the world that I see coming already, because of the tsunami of Pilates passion and the pressure to survive from everybody being caught up in that wave and making money at it, either historically over a long period of time or just new and enjoying the income stream, right? Once an income stream, always an income stream, or you try to keep it so, because that's economic survival, right? So in that light, and helping you understand MMP, it's a theory of Pilates. And a theory attempts to explain something based on the facts of what's there. Ideally, incorporating general principles. And these are the words coming out of the definition. Except every time I go to grab the name of the word, I lose it. But I have to stay here because I don't want to go on yet. See, I rubbed up against it yesterday I heard about someone kept asking about where they had learned what they were being taught because they weren't familiar with it, and they were asking out of the surprise that they were being introduced to something they weren't familiar with. And remember, I'm talking about surviving as a Pilates instructor. Right? And what I'm relating to you is someone that really considers themselves a Pilates instructor, because they are, making a living at it maybe, been through a lot of training and certifications maybe, whatever, but they have enough of a body of experience that they're saying, where do you get this from? And so in terms of value, somebody's asking about something that they're not familiar with, and that is intrinsic value and a statement of value right there, unless they're spitting on it and abhorring it, which they wouldn't really care about. They would just move on and ignore it to find something that was interesting, right? So MMP, just in the Pilates world, is a theory about Pilates. That's an explanation of Joe's original work. And in and of itself, the theory does not rely on anything other than Joe's work. So you, having heard this explanation, or you may have to go through several recordings to absorb it, or read about it on the web or something. But the more familiar you get with the theory, the more you presume it as, in my opinion, reality, and then you interact with reality based on the theory and get results in terms of students that have a whole lot of fun because they spend so much time in the cave, because you empower them. So that's coming up on number, hold on a second, hold on. All right, so I hope that what you've listened to over the last few minutes is me talking about MMP, which means my brand of Pilates. This is the trademark I use to point to the brand. The brand of Pilates is a theory, which means it's an attempt at explaining the original work of Joe. His words, his pictures, his film. And actually, you can leave out anything other than his book, so you can say not the film, because all that this theory draws upon are three things out of Joe's book. Now, if you've heard this forever, you know it, right? And if you haven't, it's his definition, his promise, and his sequence. So, I think I'm headed into a residency where my focus is on the theory. I'll participate in what's going on and then try to shed more light on theory, because that's the gentle hand, the gentle press of the hand behind my shoulder blades, moving me forward. So I'm still all in the tumultuous feelings after having read a book that you were sorry ended and you weren't sure you got any of it, but it was fun to read. And that's the one I've talked about by Nick Herbert called Quantum Reality. And in the aftermath of that, having read the book and trying to find a takeaway from it, or what do you make of it? It's like I don't know what to make of it, because mostly you just explored 8 views of reality. Many of them implicitly, where the observer is implicit to the existence of reality, and you know that I attach the capacity of observing to the spirit and body, mind, and spirit, right? And so this whole quantum Pilates thing, what a name for a studio. If you get what I'm talking about, and you're looking for the name of a Pilates studio, quantum Pilates, and then to be able to back it up with the theory of MMP, that the spirit is the observer and you are in the midst of creating your reality as part of the execution of the conditioning. Meaning you're doing the dance, you're moving through the sequence, you're losing yourself in the flow of the sequence, of the pattern. And by losing yourself, I don't know that that's really a loss of self, but just to stay within the confines of Joe's defines, you're staying within the complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. And again, this is about surviving as a Pilates instructor, and you don't need to know where spirit comes from, or what it is, or even care. And that's another point I wanted to make, is there are great Pilates instructors, both in the past that are no longer with us, and to this day there are great and will be on through time. Great Pilates instructors that are great without needing to care a whit about theory. Okay? And don't want to, don't need to, don't care. And yet, from my standpoint of trying to explain the theory, and the point of view is to say that if you observe someone teach that doesn't care a whit about theory and knows nothing of, because they don't care anything about it, if you watch them teach, if you watch them instruct, right, what will you see? To me, of course, you'll see an ability to issue instructions that produce not only movement, but generate flow of movement, in which the orchestration is toward the experience of complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. Because you don't have to know how you get there, or why you get there, to have the experience or to deliver it. The profession from me as a teacher, and what to say my brand stands for. My brand, well, stands for the fact of core new tension that has been unacknowledged until now, and this trademark is a reference to, or a pointer to, oppositional rotation between axes. 4 words, right? You know how to say those 4 words, right? Oppositional rotation between axes. You don't have to know anything else other than that, and how to sort of make it happen in your body. And you'll figure it out. Shoulders to hips, and hips to knees, and knees to ankles, to metatarsals. Really. Core new tension is my pride and joy, my admittance of responsibility for pointing to something that, you know, in my entire life I've never come across anyone saying, oh yeah, that's already here, or that's already there. I've had a yoga person come up to me and say, oh yeah, that's like this yoga thing in terms of places in the body. Core new tension is a physical engagement of the musculature to generate a tension between the axes of rotation that musculature is creating. Did I say that right? I think you know what I mean. All right. off on something. Number two out of 3 or out of 5, but I'm on number 2, and number 3 is the last one. Oh, I brought up, I don't know where I went with it, but I brought up Nick Herbert's book, Quantum Reality, and talked about a great name for a Pilates studio would be Quantum Pilates, because it makes the connection between what's so implicit in our interpretation of reality through quantum physics is as inherent in the pursuit of the Pilates experience. Because Joe says you have to be completely concentrated on the purpose of the exercises as you perform them. What does that mean? Completely concentrated. I don't think it means contemplated. I don't think you're sitting back thinking about it, right? Your mind is there. You totally concentrate on the purpose of the exercise. And to do that, you have to be involved as the observer. And I always try to make a selection of options on interpretation for that. And I remind you up front that the interpretations don't matter, because as long as an instructor, you know that you're blending a human being's capacities into a complete coordination. If I need, that's what I do as a Pilates instructor, and if there's more that you expected me to do, then we have to reevaluate the relationship, right? And I've been lucky so far. I haven't had to address too much of the add 2 and 2. But to survive, you have to add 2 and 2. And to survive, you also have to have a sense of value and a sense of being ridiculous when you start out. Review what Columbus asks for and got from whatever he discovered, and what had to be renegotiated because it was just ridiculous for the terms. Like 6% of all value traded with any new country. Just ridiculous claims, right? But I'm saying, don't be afraid to make ridiculous ones. And the more you make them, the more they somehow seem reasonable. Because, well, that's not true. Maybe that is true. But the more you understand the theory, and that there is theory, and that understanding of the theory is very rare in the marketplace. The takeaway from the book, other than the 8 different views of reality, are really connected to observation, the observer, and hence in Michael Miller Pilates, the spirit that you're trying to coordinate with body and mind. The takeaway is that reality is non-local and faster than the speed of light, which seems to me totally bizarre because of the major presumptions about Einstein's work, and that you can't go faster than the speed of light. And yet a guy named Bell came out with a theorem looking at the facts, and from his theorem, which just addresses the facts, not even interpretation of the facts, his work points to reality being non-local and faster than the speed of light. And you know, light sometimes is called lumens or illuminaries. And so superluminal is a single word, superluminal, referring to faster than the speed of light. So John Bell's theorem has had a major impact on what makes sense and what doesn't in that realm in physics, which is fascinating. And the takeaway from his theorem, regardless of the takeaway from his theorem is that we're all connected. It is all connected. All of it is connected. And it's connected non-locally. So that when Spock feels his planet destroyed on Star Trek, and he has this feeling of something that happened light years away, that's what it means that the world is non-local, to me, in general. But it's all connected. And it's not necessarily connected just locally, but at a distance. And that connection, necessarily, evidently, has to be faster than the speed of light, which seems very contrary to a large body of what we know. It's fascinating not to know all the answers, of course, and it's fascinating to look, for me, at what I'm passionate about with Pilates. What is that, Michael? That's the experience, right? We talked about that in past broadcasts. People fall in love with Pilates because of their experience of it. They want more of that, and then they want to be able to share that with others. There's a new film out on Arthur Miller, the writer, Arthur Miller, and he makes a comment that even the trees are watching, which connects to this comment I'm making about we're all connected and we're connected non-locally to everything. And that happens at faster than the speed of light. It's amazing how the book sort of ends up in this situation of this theorem that's just looking at the facts, and just the facts says this, and it's hard for any of these, it's hard for us to work within those facts because of other facts. So you're up to date if you're aware that in the world of quantum physics there's about 8 interpretations. The observer is a major issue in each of those interpretations of reality, and that a guy named Bell came out with a theorem, and this isn't that recently, 30-something, 1932, came out with a theorem that implicitly shows that, but based on the facts, it's a non-local world that happens at faster than the speed of light. Isn't that bizarre? I can't believe I'm actually saying that. This is no physics background. This is just my impression of this book. So it's a book review of Nick Herbert's book on quantum reality. And of course, it's a reflection on how what I learned in that book influences or reinforces the MMP theory of Pilates. And by theory, it's just an explanation of. And even the trees are listening is good with that. So number 3, the last thing, the third thing. Pilates isotherms. $. So again, Pilates isotherms. $. So the subject is about Pilates, and it's about the $. And what the heck are isotherms? Well, I don't have a technical thing for you. I just know that when I was introduced to my first open water scuba dive, it was in a Colorado lake, and they talked about isotherms before we dove. And what was amazing was the water was clear enough. It was dark, but clear. And yet, as you went in, you went from one temperature to a drastically different temperature. There was an isotherm here, to where above it was one temperature, and below it was another. Okay? Now, when it comes to the $, and survival, this comes a little bit from yesterday too, I think, where you're trying to survive as an instructor, and if you have a studio and a tribe that you support through your studio, you're not just trying to survive for the business, but you're trying to survive for them. Or, I know it's both the same thing, but and in recognizing how the pattern in humanity at large will play out within the pattern within the Pilates culture, right? We talked about there'll be shakeouts of people that don't have the wherewithal to stay in business and they can't keep money flowing, and so studios will close. Even if others move right in, there will be closure due to the failure of producing enough income, right? And I talked about how the real money players are franchising to distribute and plop down a complete enterprise, a complete business, to suck all the profit. You know, it's the whole corporate threat of large corporations and how to survive that. And I think that plopping down of corporate interest to pull in income that it can, how it can, has an isotherm in it to what it can offer in terms of the depth to which you instruct Pilates. Now maybe I'm all wrong on that. But what I'm saying is that you can plop down or install a studio overnight or instantaneously or quickly or everywhere, right? And you can but in commoditizing the offering, where someone can come in on a really frequent level, it's a commoditized maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's a level to the depth to which someone's going to be able to pursue Pilates at the cheapest level. I know. Isotherms. In terms of what you offer in Pilates, you can offer old footage of Joe to establish credibility as an authority to what you know what you're talking about, and that's based on the historical aristocratic tradition of legitimacy coming from somebody that knew Joe and handed down through word of mouth and hearsay to what becomes a lineage. And that's human nature, and that's the way it is. But whatever lineage you're from, the theory has nothing to do with that avenue of legitimacy in representing yourself as knowing something about Pilates. And that's fine and dandy for the court and for whatever the value is that you've made of yourself from whatever exposure you've gotten. I say again, I think I said it last time, if the shoe fits, you don't have to wear it. Depending on the train you have to cover and the quality of the fit, it may be just the thing. I think about an isotherm where, and we're talking teaching Pilates and making money. And then I think about when you turn your eyes from the conditioning of Pilates to addressing the issues of physical therapy. See the difference? Because in physical therapy, you're supposed to fix the issue and address the issue, and the things you do are directed to assimilating the issue into the whole. And Pilates is about engaging the whole and having the issues assimilate into it. And maybe that's half a dozen of one or six of the other. But I think from a Pilates instructor's point of view, the point of view matters, even if you're arbitrarily moving between viewpoints, between sessions. You follow me? You may be drawn into or forced to actually be more physical therapist than Pilates instructor. And to the extent that that's not your cup of tea, then a director deal with where you enjoy or deal with where you're more comfortable. It's about fun, remember? It's about fun. And so there's an isotherm about what you teach in terms of Pilates, I guess, and I'm trying to talk about physical therapy. And to the extent that it's physical therapy, you're going through something, an isotherm, a difference in temperature, a difference in income. It's interesting what I want to say, is that many people become PTs because it's easier to make money in that avenue. And, you know, like be both, like doctors that become doctors and everything and fly planes and try to buy real estate empires just to pretend that, not to pretend, but to prove to themselves to some point that they're a jack of all trades, or at least a master of all trades. And my point is that for the same reason of a difference in money in isotherm, that some people go to physical therapy and make money in the realm of physical therapy, a Pilates purist or someone that didn't want to go to that, I think if they actually know enough of the theory, especially with core new tension, as biomechanical backup, that the whole world of physical therapy hasn't even begun to acknowledge yet, and maybe won't and maybe I'm delusional, but I know I can feel this, and I know you can feel that, too, in terms of the tension that it takes. And now pulling your face backwards to line your ears up over your shoulders is what really brings on that sensation of core new tension. Because we just hang out here all the time, and that's because gravity never surrenders. So if not going into physical therapy, maybe you're a veteran and you can work at isotherm of Pilates toward veterans. And something that's not associated to that, but in that ilk of whatever your interest is, the isotherm for whatever your interest is, you can structure in a way that not only directs your energy as a Pilates instructor, but directs your income in the same manner. You know, you get what you want, when you want, how you want. And I know that's all ideal, but you know, you have to know what you're reaching for. Right? Be Columbus. Oh, a 401, I think I just said that one, a 401c. All right. It may be a paradigm shift and not a gradual change because of the pressure coming from the Pilates tsunami. And that pressure is just one of trying to make sense of it all because there's so much of it. So just to survive in your own head as to what Pilates is and why you're doing it and what it's about and what your relationship to it is and how you choose to interact with your understanding that comes from understanding the theory, the explanation. All right. Trust your gut. Trust your gut. Because if it's all non-local, and everything's connected, then the thing other than your brain, trust your gut. Tune in your pineal gland. Tune in with your body to your presence. Because live can't live forever. Read between the lines. See behind the curtain. See what's coming and prepare now. There you go. Prepare now. At least explore, and what I'm talking about is explore unlocked knees and endpoints at metatarsals. Explore actually being an engagement between ears and shoulders and core new tension. And yeah. Find core new tension in your body. And when you do, it'll be such a powerful tool in whatever movement modality you choose to teach in, because you're just acknowledging the reality of core new tension in the body, and that the body, whether it knows it or not, I think, has to engage, however primitively or crudely, in core new tension to move. It's so much fun to share. That's why I get stickers. Order stickers. Here I come with stickers. And then I'm going to sign off. Because I'm already into my sign off. Right? Stickers. Get a stamp with your information on it. And you can hand somebody a change of attitude. Literally. In 3 seconds. I'm so grateful for my opportunity to share this with you, for YouTube and Google to be part of the technology that's allowed it to happen and been empowering in some ways, though not in others. Human nature. Trust your gut. Trust your sensation, right? Anything I talk to you intellectually about is what you think about. Here I am teaching, you're listening, and this is all teaching. But whatever I'm teaching, I profess to you, is sensational. That it makes sense, that you can feel the difference. And if you can feel the difference and you understand why the difference is better, then I don't want to say this maliciously, it's just you that has to live with yourself for what you choose, for how you choose to engage in a world, right? No one wants to know more than they want to know. And a good Pilates instructor, right? Especially if you've listened to much of my stuff and you've come to have a relationship to this theory, the more you know that as the instructor, you're just there waiting for the right timing to deliver an instruction to have it make the most impact. And it continues that way in timing, and that all of the theory and everything you know about what you know is under the surface. Doesn't even show up. For some reason, Bruce Lee comes to mind. Bless his soul. See behind the curtain. I have my curtain, see behind mine. You have your curtain. The trick is to stand on your stage and see behind your own curtain. And own both at the same time. Add 2 and 2. Direct your thinking. Direct your thinking. Geist.